The laughter started before he even sat down. It wasn't loud at first, just soft chuckles, a few whispers, the kind that cut deeper because they pretended not to exist. Mark felt it the moment he stepped into the restaurant. He paused at the entrance, holding a small paper bag with careful fingers, and for a second, he considered turning around. No one would blame him. Blind dates were already hard. This one felt like a mistake before it even began. Then he saw her. Emily sat near the window, sunlight touching her hair, scrolling on her phone with a nervous half-smile. She looked up, scanned the room, and her eyes met his. For just a heartbeat, there was relief on her face. She stood and waved. That small gesture kept him moving. Mark walked over, shoulders relaxed, steps steady, like he had nothing to hide. Someone at the next table snorted. Another whispered, "Is this a joke?" Years of cleaning hallways while people talked over him had sharpened that sense. "Hi, I'm Mark," he said, offering his hand. Emily hesitated for half a second, then shook it. "Emily, nice to finally meet you." The waiter came quickly, too quickly, eyes flicking to Mark's uniform and then away. "Table for two?" he asked, like he wasn't sure Mark belonged there. "Yes," Mark said calmly. They sat. The chair scraped the floor, loud in the awkward silence. Mark placed the small paper bag on the table between them. Emily glanced at it, curious, but said nothing yet. Around them, the restaurant hummed. Glasses clinked. Low music played. And still, the laughter floated in the air like smoke. Mark didn't flinch. He simply folded his hands and looked at Emily like she was the only person in the room. "I'm sorry about the uniform," he said gently. "I didn't want to cancel," Emily blinked. "Oh no, it's fine. I mean, you don't have to explain." That was the moment a man from the next table leaned back in his chair and laughed openly. "Wow," he said. "They let even lowering his voice now?" Emily's face flushed red. She opened her mouth, ready to defend him, but Mark raised a hand, just slightly, calm, controlled. He turned toward the man and smiled. Not a weak smile, a steady one. "I hope your night gets better," Mark said. The man looked confused, like he'd expected anger, not kindness. A few people laughed again, but it was thinner now, less sure. Mark turned back to Emily as if nothing had happened. "You said you work in marketing, right?" he asked. Emily stared at him. "Yeah, I do. How are you? So calm," Mark shrugged. "You learn what's worth carrying, and what's not." The way he listened, really listened, nodding as she spoke about her job, her city, the pressure to be perfect all the time. Mark didn't interrupt. He didn't try to impress. He just paid attention. At one point, Emily laughed, a real laugh. It surprised her. She hadn't expected to feel this comfortable. Not like this. "If you're enjoying this story so far," Mark said with a soft smile, breaking the fourth wall of the moment without forcing it, "maybe stick around. Sometimes the quiet ones surprise you." Emily smiled back, not realizing how true that was. The food arrived. Someone nearby took out their phone, pretending to text while clearly recording. Emily noticed and frowned. Mark noticed too. He adjusted his napkin and continued eating, unbothered. His calm wasn't an act. It was something deeper, something earned. Finally, Emily pointed to the paper bag. "So, what's that?" Mark looked at it as if it carried weight. "It's for you, if you want it." She opened it. Inside was a small snow globe. Inside the glass, a tiny diner sat under falling snow. Emily gasped softly. "Why give this to me?" "Because you showed up," he said simply. Around them, the laughter had stopped. People were watching now, but differently, curious, quiet. Even the man who had mocked him earlier avoided eye contact. Emily leaned back, studying Mark's face. "Can I ask you something honest?" "Always. Why a blind date?" "I mean, you seem like someone who doesn't need to prove anything." Mark looked down at his hands. "Because sometimes people only see the label. I wanted to know if anyone would see past it." Emily nodded slowly. "I think I do." Outside, thunder rumbled. The sky darkened. Rain began tapping the windows. The mood shifted, heavier, like something was building. Mark glanced outside, then back at Emily. "I should tell you something," he said. Before she could respond, the restaurant door swung open. A well-dressed woman stepped inside, scanning the room urgently. Her eyes locked onto Mark. She froze. "Mark," she said, breathless, "there you are." Every head turned. Mark stood slowly, his calm never breaking, but something in his eyes changed. Not fear, not shame, recognition. Emily looked between them, confused. "Do you know her?" Mark nodded once. "Yes, and this," he said quietly, "is where things get complicated." The room held its breath. The woman at the door walked toward their table with purpose, heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. Conversations died around her. Forks paused mid-air. Mark stayed standing, his posture respectful, calm, as if he had expected this moment for a long time. "Mark, I've been calling you," the woman said, her voice tight. "You didn't answer." "I was busy," Mark replied evenly. Emily looked up at the woman. She was elegant, confident, the kind of person who commanded rooms without raising her voice. "I'm sorry," Emily said carefully. "Do you mind if I ask who you are?" The woman's eyes flicked to Emily, then back to Mark. "My name is Claire. I work with Mark." That answer felt incomplete. Emily sensed it. So did everyone else. Claire lowered her voice. We need to talk. Now, Mark glanced at Emily. Is it okay if I step outside for a minute? Emily nodded, though uncertainty crept into her chest. Yeah, of course. As Mark followed Claire toward the door, whispers reignited behind them. Phones came out again, more openly this time. Emily stayed seated, staring at the snow globe in her hands, watching the tiny flakes settle. Calm storm, she remembered. Outside, rain poured harder, drenching the sidewalk. Through the glass, Emily could see Mark and Claire standing under the awning. Claire spoke fast, hands moving sharply. Mark listened. He always listened. Then he said something that made Claire stop cold. Inside, the man who had mocked Mark earlier leaned toward Emily with a smirk. Guess Prince Charming has a secret life. Emily didn't respond. Her eyes stayed on Mark. After a long moment, Mark stepped back inside alone. His shirt was damp at the shoulders. His face was steady, but something heavier sat behind his eyes now. He returned to the table and sat down slowly. I'm sorry, he said. That wasn't how tonight was supposed to go. Emily took a breath. Who is she really? Mark didn't dodge it. She's my attorney, Emily blinked. Your attorney? Yes. Before she could ask more, the restaurant manager approached, his tone sharp but rehearsed. Sir, we've had some complaints. You're causing a disturbance. Mark looked up. I apologize if it feels that way. We were just leaving. That won't be necessary, the manager said. Actually, it might be. Emily stood. He hasn't done anything wrong. The manager's eyes slid past her. Miss, this isn't about you. Mark placed a gentle hand on Emily's arm. It's okay. That calm again, unbreakable, or so it seemed. As they walked toward the exit, the man from the other table clapped slowly. Real smooth, the date was worth it. Mark stopped. The room went silent. He turned, not angry, not defensive, just honest. It was, he said. The words landed harder than any insult. Even the man looked unsettled. Outside, rain soaked them instantly. Emily laughed once, shaky. Well, that was dramatic, Mark smiled faintly. I didn't want you dragged into this. Into what? She asked. 3 years ago, he began. I worked for a company that cleaned government buildings, overnight shifts, quiet work. Emily listened. One night, I found something I wasn't supposed to. Documents, financial records, proof that people at the top were stealing millions. Emily's smile faded. What did you do? I reported it. A car splashed water onto the curb as it passed. Mark didn't flinch. They didn't fire me. They buried me. Blacklisted me. Made sure no one would hire me for anything better than cleaning bathrooms. Lawsuits. Threats. That's when Claire came in. Emily stared at him. So, the janitor uniform is real, Mark said. But it's not the whole story. Claire appeared again, stepping closer but keeping her distance. Mark, the hearing was moved up, tomorrow morning. Emily looked between them. Hearing? Mark nodded. The case finally goes public tomorrow. The truth comes out. And tonight? Emily asked quietly. Mark met her eyes. Tonight, I wanted to feel normal. Something shifted in Emily then, not pity. Respect. Claire checked her watch. We should go. Mark hesitated. He looked at Emily, rain dripping from his hair. You don't owe me anything. I know this is a lot. Emily held up the snow globe. Emily held up. You gave me this, she said. You trusted me with it. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm glad I met you. Mark swallowed. For the first time, his calm cracked just a little. From across the street, someone shouted. A small crowd had gathered. Phones pointed at them. The man from the restaurant stood among them, grinning. Hey, janitor, he yelled. Smile for the camera. Mark turned slowly. Cameras flashed. Rain streaked down his face. Rain streaked. Clips from the restaurant. Mark standing in his janitor uniform. The laughter. The mocking voice. The rain. His calm smile as phones flashed in his face. Someone had added dramatic music. Someone else had added captions. Janitor exposed. Secret life. The life. What happens next? Emily watched it on her phone while brushing her teeth, her stomach twisting with every replay. The comments were worse. Some defended him. Most didn't. They called him fake, a plant, an attention seeker. Others laughed harder than the night before. Emily closed the app, hands shaking. She checked her messages. 3 missed calls from unknown numbers. 1 voicemail calling her naive. Another warned her to stay out of it. At the courthouse, reporters lined the steps. Cameras pointed like weapons. Mark stepped out of a rideshare, wearing the same blue uniform. He had chosen it on purpose. Claire walked beside him, sharp and focused, blocking microphones with practiced ease. Mark, are you really just a janitor? Someone shouted. Is this a stunt? Did you lie to that woman? Nothing. His silence spoke louder than any denial. Inside, the courtroom felt colder than it looked. Wood benches, pale walls, the low murmur of anticipation. Emily slipped into a seat near the back, heart pounding. She hadn't told Mark she was coming. She wasn't sure if she was welcome. But she needed to see this through. When Mark entered, heads turned. Whispers followed him like shadows. He took his seat at the defense table, hands folded, back straight. The judge entered. The room rose, then fell into heavy quiet. The opposing attorney stood first, polished, confident. He smiled as if the outcome was already decided. He painted Mark as a disgruntled employee, a man chasing attention, a story too dramatic to be true. He referenced the video, the laughter, the blind date. He suggested it was all part of a plan. Emily clenched her fists, then Claire stood. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't rush. She told the story slowly, of night shifts and locked doors, of files left unattended by powerful men who believed no invisible could hurt them. She spoke of retaliation, of careers quietly destroyed, of a man forced to clean buildings he once helped protect because he refused to stay silent. "Call your witness," the judge said. Claire turned. "We call Mark Reynolds." Mark stood. I walked to the stand, swore to tell the truth. His voice was steady as he spoke. He described the night he found the documents, how his hands shook, how he almost walked away, how he thought of his father, who taught him that silence can be louder than lies. The opposing attorney smirked. "And yet, you wore your uniform to a public blind date. Convenient." Mark looked at him. Then at the judge. Then, briefly, at Emily. "I wore it because it's honest," Mark said. "It's who I am right now. I won't dress up my life to make it easier for others to accept the truth." A murmur rippled through the room. "Isn't it true you wanted sympathy? Attention?" Mark paused. The silence stretched. This was the moment, the one people would clip, twist, mock, he said. "I wanted dignity." Emily felt tears rise. Claire called the final witness, a former executive, nervous, sweating. He confirmed everything: the stolen money, the cover-up, the orders to bury Mark's career. The courtroom shifted, the confidence drained from the other side. The judge called for a recess. Outside, reporters surged again. Emily stood near the steps as Mark emerged. Someone shouted, "Do you regret the date?" Mark stopped. Cameras locked onto him. He glanced at Emily and the crowd. "It reminded me why I did this in the first place." The man from the restaurant stood behind the cameras, still smirking, still recording. The judge returned. The verdict echoed through the room. In Mark's favor, full acknowledgement, protection. A public apology ordered. Criminal investigations to follow. The room erupted. Flashbulbs exploded. Emily covered her mouth. Mark closed his eyes, just for a second. As he stepped outside, applause broke out. Not everyone, but enough. Then the man from the restaurant pushed forward. "So you were playing everyone," he said loudly. "Guess the joke's on us." Mark looked at him, the same calm, the same steady eyes. "No," he said. "The joke is thinking kindness is weakness." The crowd went silent. Emily realized the story wasn't over yet. The world had seen the truth. But what it would do with it, that part was still unfolding. By the next week, the story had moved on for most people. Another scandal, another clip, another clue, another name to forget. But for Mark, life didn't snap into something shiny and new. It shifted slowly, like light creeping into a dark room that had been closed for too long. He was offered interviews, morning shows, podcasts, a book deal. Mark said no to most of them. He still woke up early, still packed his lunch in the same brown paper bag, still reported to work, because until the paperwork cleared, the job was still the job. And because humility, to him, wasn't a performance. Emily met him outside the courthouse the day the final documents were signed. No cameras this time, just traffic noise and a soft breeze. She handed him a coffee. "Milk and 1 sugar," she said. I remembered. Mark smiled. "A real one." "You didn't have to come." "I wanted to," she replied. "That night, I kept thinking about the snow globe." He reached into his jacket and pulled it out, untouched. "I kept it safe." They walked for a while, saying nothing. Sometimes silence said more than celebration ever could. The company issued a public apology 2 days later. Names were named. Charges were filed. Money was traced. People who once walked past Mark without seeing him now used his name carefully, like it carried weight. He was offered his old position back, a higher one even, an office with windows. Mark thought about it for a long time, then he declined. Instead, he accepted a role as an ethics advisor, not because it paid more, because it mattered. Because it meant fewer people would have to choose between their conscience and their livelihood. The man from the restaurant tried to apologize once. He sent a message, long, rambling. Mark read it. Then he deleted it, not out of anger, out of peace. Some lessons didn't need closure. They needed distance. One evening, Mark and Emily returned to the same restaurant. No uniform this time, no spotlight, just 2 people sharing a table. The waiter recognized him. His smile was nervous. "Welcome," the waiter said. "Can I get you anything?" Mark nodded. "Just water, thank you." No laughter followed, only quiet respect. Halfway through the meal, Emily leaned in. "Do you ever wish you'd reacted differently that night?" Mark shook his head. "If I had lost my calm, I would have lost myself." Outside, snow began to fall, real snow, soft and slow. Emily watched it through the window and smiled. "Looks like your mom was right." Mark followed her gaze. "Yeah," he said softly. "She was." Before they left, Mark stood and looked around the room. "If this story meant something to you," he said gently, as if speaking to more than just Emily, "stay curious, speak up when it's hard, and share kindness when it costs you nothing." Emily squeezed his hand. As they stepped into the snow, Mark didn't look back. The world would keep judging, keep laughing, keep moving on, but some moments stayed. Some choices echoed. And sometimes, the quietest reaction changed everything. If this story made you think, who in your life might be carrying more than you realize?